You're listening to the Business Wealth Impact Podcast, your source for empowering information and cutting-edge ideas from the world's top minds. I'm your host, Jeanne Amlour, founder of seven-figure coaching company, Jeanne Amlour International. Join me on a journey to unleash your potential and create your highest success. Welcome to Business Wealth Impact. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Business Wealth Impact. I just want to take a second to thank all the people that are listening and are loving the show, and also welcome to any new people. And also welcome to our guest. Today is Terry Rice. He's an author, keynote speaker, and he helps people live and tell better stories. He uncovers practical yet often overlooked strategies that break through obstacles, ignite creativity, and boldly help people pursue their life goals. He speaks at events for companies like Amazon and Google. He's been featured by Good Morning America, Fast Company, and the Wall Street Journal. He's a husband and father of 5. Very welcome, Terry.
Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, me too. Okay, so let's tell us about how do you help people create this content with all that good stuff I just said, igniting creativity. What's different about what you do?
Yeah, there's two things that are different from most people who are trying to help you like give keynotes or create social media content, whatever it is. The very first thing is I help people get very clear on who they are as an individual, right? So we're double clicking, getting very clear on your identity, who you are, what you care about, your morals, your ethics, your values, so on and so forth. Because once you have that as a foundation, it's much easier to create content that sounds authentic because you're authentically representing yourself because you understand yourself. So there is some deep work that goes into it. And if you want to get started, you can do perhaps like the Ikigai exercise you might have heard of before, or Robert Greene has a life's task exercise as well. But once you understand that, you're in a good position. Another thing I do is this. Instead of just saying, okay, here's your target audience, now go talk to them, I help you understand their psychographics. So what's going on inside of their head? What are they thinking, saying, and doing? By creating an empathy map, which anyone who's done UX before has heard of. But essentially, it's similar to a persona, but you're diving into your audience's head by understanding their psychographics, which allows you to be more persuasive and just more on point with your communication. So it's a lot of fun.
Okay, so what got you into this in the first place?
I became a content creator, I don't know, like 10 years ago, almost by force, because I was like, oh, if you're an entrepreneur, you have to create content. And then I got sick of just doing the basic like how-to stuff because after a while, you've seen them all. And I wanted to get recognized and rewarded for who I am, not just what I do. So what I started doing is just telling stories in my content. Like, here's one time I struggled in my career. Here's the solution. And if you want to learn more, hire me. So once I started doing that type of storytelling where I actually demonstrated to people that I had lived in their shoes and have a solution, things just blew up. And beyond that, by blow up, I mean my business, but I also got more media appearances, more keynotes, things like that, because I was showing my actual personality and not just my expertise.
Okay, awesome. So now we were talking about this before. You said you help people do keynotes that are not boring. And I said, hashtag unboring keynotes. What's the secret to hashtag unboring keynotes? Because a lot of them are boring. Let's be real.
Yeah, I think the problem is like as soon as you're delivering a keynote, you think you've earned people's attention. Like, oh, they have to listen to me for 40 minutes. Actually, no, they don't. They have their cell phone in their pocket. And if you're boring, they're going right to that phone. So it's just really thinking from your audience's perspective, right? So I live here in New York City. And I think to myself, if my target audience was walking by a magazine rack in Manhattan, they're late to work and it's raining, what would need to be written on a magazine for them to stop and say, you know what? Whoa, that's for me. I'm going to actually stop and pick it up and look at it. So when you're thinking of the idea for your keynote, it should be that salient to your target audience. Like, wow, like here's this thing that I absolutely must hear. And when you're actually constructing it, there's a few things to keep in mind. First of all, it's facts tell, stories sell, right? So you're better off wrapping your message in a series of stories, let's say 3, and then presenting some kind of framework afterwards. Like, here's how I got my first speaking gig. Tell that story. Here's the framework for how you can do it as well. And then after that, here's your action items, so on and so forth. So it's just building in your stories to highlight the fact that you know what you're talking about and allow people a chance to wrap their head around the content instead of just saying facts the whole time.
Okay, so nothing's really changed because we've heard about telling a story for years now.
Yes.
We all know. So why aren't people doing this?
They don't have the audacity to tell stories that aren't boring. That's the problem. So when I go through it with my coaching clients, I say, look, there's three different levels. The first is authority. Do you have the authority to even talk about this topic, right? And it doesn't matter if you've been doing this for 20 years or 3 years, you have some level of authority, so you want to express that. Another is adversity, either adversity that you've been through or your audience is going through. You want to highlight that and double click on the pain, right? Because people give you opportunities when they feel connected to you. And sometimes that connection is made when you share some kind of vulnerable moment, which may have been painful, and how you resolved it, right? So we
Mm.
have that authority, we have that adversity. The last is the audacity to actually have a cool ass keynote instead of something boring that feels safe. And I know what it's like when you're like, oh, is this going to work? Are they going to go for this? I pitched Ernst & Young on a topic called savage storytelling. And guess what?
Mhm.
They said yes, and I delivered it in
Mhm.
Palm Springs. So
Mm.
if Ernst & Young, like this financial institution who's, been around forever, is okay with me saying on stage, here's how you do savage storytelling, whatever idea you have in your head right now, your listeners, you could probably run with that too.
No, I love that because when I used to do keynotes and presentations for all sorts of companies, I would make juicy titles that were hashtag not boring. Okay.
Yeah.
And they would say the same thing. They said, we love the titles of your stories because they're so almost funny sometimes and not boring. And they loved it because business people are tired of being bored to death. And there's this idea that they all want very crusty, boring stuff. No, they're bored. And if you want to make them not bored, make it interesting and make it fun and make them grab onto that title. So they would book me for the same reason. They said, we just love the title of this. Nobody ever would have thought of saying that, like how to network. I wouldn't say how to network. It'd be how to knock people's socks off in 5 seconds. They'd be like, well, okay, we'll have that one. I used to have to say that.
Or like how to network when you hate networking. You know what I mean? It's like it's gonna be the same topic
Yeah.
perhaps too, or the same content, but it's like just that spikiness. Like Wes Cow, the founder of Maven, she moved on since then. She has this notion called having a spiky point of view and
Mm.
sharing that online. So your spiky point of view is when you have contrarian thoughts or approaches towards a common approach, and you're not being spiky just to get attention. You're like you are rooted in your beliefs and actually have some proof that you're correct. But that's how you stand out. And like I said earlier, that's how you get rewarded for who you are, not just what you do.
Right, right. Well, there's a sort of post that I teach people to do. And it's not about, that post of here's an unpopular point of view. Well, if you write that, you're going to be unpopular because you're
Yeah.
using the words unpopular. So there's been that whole problem of here's an unpopular point of view, which doesn't work because it's a negative. Instead of here's something I have to say, and you just say it. But when you say this is unpopular, people think you're unpopular.
Yeah, that fake, inauthentic boldness has
Mm.
to go. Like to your point, just do it. And I'll give you an example of something audacious that I did and said on social media. So one of my kids, I'm at my daughter's recital, and one of my sons wanted me to pick him up. So he tried like climbing me essentially to pick him up, my 5-year-old, and he accidentally pulled down my pants in a crowded theater. So I'm like, all right, this is embarrassing. I told that story the next day on LinkedIn. I'm like, my son did this, so on and so forth. I was angry, but I didn't get mad because I've been meditating so much. That's how I regulate my emotions. Here's some tips on how to meditate, right? So that was a
Mm.
story. But then an editor from Fatherly, this magazine, saw that. And they're like, wait, can we run a story about you? I'm like, about what? They're like, about you getting your pants pulled down. I was like, I've done other stuff too, like that would be nice. So they run that story. And then Google, same thing. They reached out. They're like, hey, do you want to do a talk here about how to be a high performing parent as well as professional? So I'm like, sure. So again, that real audacity, me telling this embarrassing story about my kid depantsing me at school, which hasn't happened, I
Mhm.
guess, since I was in elementary school, is how I got a speaking engagement as well as a media mention. So that's what I teach people.
You could do a whole new brand, pantless parenting. Hilarious.
I'm down. I'm down. I like that.
You're down, yeah. Okay, so are your pants, apparently. So, so tell us, what got you here? You have a pretty kind of interesting life story.
Yeah, I'd say the first like X years were pretty basic. I went to college, went to business school, got an MBA, started working here in New York City. For the first 10 years, I was in corporate working. I was on Wall Street for a while. I was at Adobe. I was at Facebook. But at the same time, I was battling alcoholism to the point where I was drinking every night near the end, and sometimes even in the morning. So not a good spot. and ended up getting laid off because of that. So, it makes sense. Got laid off, went to rehab. And while I was actually in rehab, I wrote the business plan for the company that I now have today. This was 10 years ago because I was too embarrassed to go back to corporate. I was like, let me just try my own hand at this. And that worked. Surprisingly, it worked well. I did better than I could have expected, especially in the first year. I made more money than I was making at Facebook, which was pretty good money. So I was humming along for a couple of years, and unfortunately, my wife and I lost our son, TJ,
Mm,
and that, as you can imagine, was and still is a challenge. And it forced me to slow down, or it should have forced me to slow down. But immediately, the response that I had was just to stay as busy as possible, just to try to like numb myself to an extent. And I also never talked about it in public because the awkward looks and like the pain that it would bring up and stuff like that. But I feel strongly that that caused a rift between me and my audience, because if you look closely, you could probably tell I was like always hiding something, but I was hiding pain. I wasn't hiding like I'm shady or anything like that. So finally, this is 2023, 6 years after it happened, I felt comfortable talking about it on stage for the first time. And
mm,
that's what just changed everything. The feedback I got from people, like not just like, hey, we're proud of you, but like, hey, how can you help me? Grown
mm,
adults coming up to me crying and just saying, I'm in pain too. Can you help me tell my story? So on and so forth. So what I love telling that story now, because you see me on Good Morning America, like all this press, but when you understand it was juxtaposed like with all this pain that I went through, my goal is to show people like, look, no matter what you're going through, there is a way out, so long as you do so with intention, and you can honor maybe someone you lost or some challenges that you went through by continuing to be an amazing person going forward.
mm. Wow. So I can imagine you're going, and I hear that a lot, that people after the fact say, yeah, I was on television, but what I was really going through was all this. And people have to be ready for that. You have to be ready to talk about that, right? But I guess if you'd been on Good Morning America at that point and had revealed it then, that would have been really powerful, because we're not often getting the real person. I get it. We're not getting the real person. We're getting what they're comfortable, and God bless them, of course. You have to be comfortable with what you're sharing. But there's always a story going on. I always wonder what's really going on with people when I see them speak. Always. Because there's usually something going on that you don't know.
Yeah, and I think in my case, not talking about my son especially, it was causing challenges with my wife, because she's like so vocal about it. She's started a nonprofit. It's called Push for Pregnancy, to help prevent stillbirth. Whereas I'm just hiding it, and had a bigger platform than her. So like I'm all over the media, not saying anything. Whereas like she's like
Mm,
boots to the ground. So when I finally started talking about it, it was a good moment for us, and a healing opportunity as well. But I think it's still not comfortable to talk about, to be honest. But I'll give you an example. Like unfortunately, a couple of years ago, I lost my brother as well. My older brother died. He wasn't even 50 years old. But
mm,
at that time, since I had just got more clear with my identity and how I want to show up, I was able to honor him by talking about it a lot sooner than I did with my son,
mm.
and just getting through that process in a more healthy way as well, because I wasn't hiding everything.
Makes sense. Okay, so what's next for you?
What is next for me? Yeah, let's get to the good stuff. I mean, I have four living children who are all under 9 years old, so they keep me very busy. I coach their sports teams. Actually, my daughter's intramural football team won the championship thanks to my brilliant coaching. So doing that, partnering with some really great brands to help entrepreneurs grow, but doing so in a way that's a lot easier these days with all these AI prompts and different systems and solutions. So enjoying that, but really just being present and enjoying the moments between the moments, because too often we're thinking about what's next, like what's the big thing. But for me, the big thing is I'm going to pick my kids up from school in a couple hours. We're going to play some basketball, and then and that's it. So that's where I'm at. Just being comfortable with where I am, yet still planning for the future.
And it sounds like you do a lot of meditation to be in the moment
I do. Yeah, mindfulness is important.
and
Uh,
to not get angry. But I feel like that's the big challenge for people and entrepreneurs. But we are always thinking about the next thing and what we don't have. And, a lot of us are dealing with anxiety too. I mean, when
yeah.
we figured out that most entrepreneurs really are anxious people. I'm anxious. I've been spent years trying to figure that one out. And I even, I have a vagus nerve stimulator, and I do
Oh, nice.
all sorts of breathing. And but I really feel like what you said, you regulate, so you didn't get angry when the pants fell off.
Yeah.
um, what are some ways that you cope other than with meditation?
Well, there's like the basic stuff where it's journaling, just getting your
Mm,
thoughts out. And I know everyone's heard of it, but like it just works because you're having a conversation with yourself. Often you're solving problems just by writing them down, or at least you're admitting that you have a problem, right? These little things. And like often when I get done with my journal, if it's in regards to like my personal relationships, I'll go tell my wife, like, hey, you know what? Sorry, I should have apologized for this. Like because I'm that more present with it. So that's one thing. Another thing is this, like it's to become a researcher of good. And I'll explain what I mean by that. So if you ever want to boost your optimism, here's what I want you to do. As you're going throughout your day, look for 3 good things to happen. Just look for 3 good things. Like the other day, I saw someone drop their wallet during the New York City half marathon. Someone picked it up and gave it to them. So I'm like, boom, that's one. So if you just do that, you will train your brain to just look for and expect good things to happen as opposed to the other way, which is pessimism, right? So
mm,
that's another way where I'm just constantly looking out for good things instead of like worrying about the bad things as well.
So important. I have a gratitude practice. I just write down not three, as many. I just many things that I can think of that I'm grateful for. And it goes really deep sometimes. Sometimes it's like, I'm so grateful I have leftovers because I don't have to cook tonight. Like it really goes deep. And also the journaling. I found that extremely helpful. And also, you're into fitness. So am I. What kind of part did that play with the healing of after your loss?
It was huge. It was, I needed somewhere to put the negative energy, the pain. And I wasn't going back to drinking. So I was like, okay, what can I do to just like physically get this anger out and also exhaust myself, anger slash pain out. And that's when I started doing CrossFit, which is a good way to just
Mm,
punish yourself for like an hour if you ever want to, because you're not sitting around like, thinking about the next movement. But it also showed me like, wow, I have full control over this stuff too,
mhm.
because so many things in life we can't control, but your physical body, if you train it properly and you eat properly, you will. And on my end, like I lost 20 pounds just doing that. When I first walked into the gym, I couldn't do one pull up. Now I can do reps with 90 pounds tied around my waist. So it's like just seeing that strength build up over the last X years and just showing up more confidently in my body has been a
Mm.
game changer, as well as having a community, because often as entrepreneurs we don't have a community, and the only community we have is a community for other entrepreneurs. It's like, great, like what if you just want to hang out with regular ass people? Like you need something like that. So for me, the gym is my community, and I can just go there, get my fill, and then just go back to work when I'm ready.
So interesting. We always talk about empowerment, but I feel like and we talk about exercise, but I also am building muscle, and it
Yeah.
truly is truly empowering. You are physically empowering yourself when you're building muscle. And I don't think people are quite drawing that actual, very literal meaning, because when you start seeing muscle on your body, well, that's empowering because it wasn't there before and you can see it. It's
Yeah.
something you can actually see. I like that because, sometimes
Yeah.
you wonder if I don't know how you feel, but sometimes I wonder if I'm making any progress psychologically. Am I really progressing psychologically and mentally and as a good person and a leader? Sometimes it's up and down, but when you look at your body and your training, it's like, well, there's the muscle. Can't argue with that, right?
Yeah, I love it, and it's a forced focusing moment too. Because often throughout the day we can get distracted if we want to, but if you're doing squats and you have hundreds of pounds on your back, your only thing you're focusing on is how the heck do I stand up? You know what I
Mm,
mean? So it's like it's a good chance to do that. And you can hype yourself up too. You can say, look, if I just did this tough workout, oh, I can finish that project. You know what I mean? Because you already got your win for the day or whatever, an example of success. And that carries on to other aspects of your life as well.
100%. Okay, well, Terry, this has been amazing having you. If people want to reach out to Terry, what's your website again?
Yeah, it's terryrice.co, not .com. Terryrice.co would be the best spot.
Great. Okay, well, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge. And thank you, everybody, for taking time out of your busy lives to listen to us banter and share ideas. And I really hope that we'll see you on the next one. You're listening to the Business Wealth Impact Podcast, your source for empowering information and cutting edge ideas from the world's top minds. I'm your host, Jean Amlour, founder of seven-figure coaching company, Jean Amlour International. Join me on a journey to unleash your potential and create your highest success. Welcome to Business Wealth Impact.